Hey there, campers. While we're gathering around the campfire, we just want to let you know we are not what you would call experts. What we do have is a love for researching and discussing the lore of cryptids, creatures,
and an occasional spooky woman that can eat our soul.
So if you are in need of immediate help with the chupacabra in your yard, please consult someone else.
Also, this podcast isn't for kids. These campfire stories can contain graphic and explicit content that may not be suitable for young campers, so listener discretion is advised. Hi, campers. My name is Kimmy, and I'm here with my co-host, Ryan. Ooh, I just realized how loud you were. No, you're doing great. It's more of a my end thing. Oh, how do I work his computer? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Boom.
Oh, technology.
Yeah, I was playing with my mic to make it sound better. I think I made it louder.
Well, it sounds better. I can hear you better.
Oh, good. That's a start.
Woo! Well, let's get right into this after those slight technical difficulties. You think after how long have we been doing this? Like
33 episodes.
33 episodes, we would know what we're doing, right?
Plus a couple bonus, so like more like 36 episodes. It's fine.
Oh, we're doing great. So speaking of doing great, what did you find Aloreing this week?
Yeah. So yesterday I went to the Ren Fair in our town.
Woohoo!
And I've been to a couple Ren Fairs in my life, but this is the first time like me and the whole group I went with were like, we're gonna dress up. So we all dressed up. I ended up doing more like piratey because turns out Renaissance era stuff is like a lot more difficult to dress up with. We only had 1 week's notice. That's the thing. Like last weekend we're like, oh, the Ren Fair's next week. We should get dressed up. So I had 1 week to get a costume together, but it turned out good. It was very fun. I ate meat pies and drank butterbeer. It was awesome.
It looked really fun. Honestly,
Yeah.
as long as you have, I say the safest thing any person can have in their closet as an accessory is a pirate shirt, and I
Yep.
will stand by that for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
And one is the Ren Fair, because you're set. You
You're
got all your
set.
stuff.
Yeah. And this Ren Fair, like, I don't know. I've only ever been to the one here in town. It's like there's like different camps throughout the Ren Fair because it's a huge
Ooh.
park. And
Right.
so like there's like a pirate land and there was like a fairy land and there was like and like then like the normal medieval land. So we hung out in pirate land. It was a good time.
That sounds so mad. I'm envious. That
Yeah.
sounds like a delightful fucking
There
time.
was like a guy who was like in one of those like medieval like jail things where they're like hands and like head go into, you know what I'm talking about, where like
Yeah.
clothes around him, and he was just sitting there like talking shit to people walking by. It was so funny.
I love how unhinged
Oh my
Renaissance
goodness, yeah.
fairs are.
Like we went dressed up. Some people go hard for Ren
Yeah.
fairs. Like it was wild. Some of the outfits.
Yeah, I'm one of those people where I go, I'm gonna look like a fucking fairy goddess.
Yeah,
I commit to
and you
it.
could have hung out in Fairyland. It was awesome.
So I would have hung out in Pirate Land. I would
Yeah.
have dressed like a pirate and have been in Pirate Land the whole time
Yeah,
though.
it was definitely the coolest part
Yeah.
of the whole thing. I got like some fun accessories because for Halloween we're
Woo!
having a pirate party too. Um,
Oh, is that the one our friend's doing?
yeah,
Oh, I wish I could go to California that time of year
You
so
should
bad.
go.
I want to so bad. I saw the invitation and my heart went so full, and I was like, but it's Edgar's busy season of work. So I'm like,
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out after. He can come. We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out. If
Yeah.
not, we'll do something.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing I hate. All my cool friends moved out of state and you guys all betrayed me. So it's fine. I'm not hurt and I don't think about it constantly, but it's fine. No hard feelings.
Oh, well, anyway, what did you find alluring?
um Wow, just a lot's happened this week. This last weekend, Edgar and we went to Universal
Nice.
in good old Cali for our 3-year dating anniversary. So,
Nice.
woo, yay to love. We did the Frightmares. The what?
Oh,
It's not Frightmares. That's what Lagoon calls it.
yeah. I don't know what it's called, but I've always wanted to do it. Is
I
it
like.
is it just called Halloween night? Like,
I think it is. I think it's like Halloween Eve or
yeah.
Spook Night or whatever. And the thing is, like, it was so cool. My only problem is I feel we ended on a bad scary ride.
Oh,
So, cause like we did it's just everything was so fucking immaculate just because
yeah.
it's Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
And I, my qualm with like haunted houses is I don't like the gory rooms. Like it's gross, it's
Mhm.
cheap, it's campy. Like if you like, it's cool. Like if like a blood thing slashes at me, that's great.
Yeah.
Like
But
I
if the
support
whole
that.
thing is just gory.
Yeah, and then it's just like this is all you could do. Like I get like disappointed, I
Yeah.
guess, and I'm more like unimpressed and I look at how campy it is. So I'll
Yeah.
start with the disappointing one. we
Yeah.
went we waited for an hour, 2 hours in this one line for the like scarecrow haunted thing, and I thought it was
Goodness.
going to be like a cornfield. And I was like
Yeah.
that's going to be hella dope. Like it's like old farmy scarecrows and whatever. And it's the last ride of the night. We get through it. And it's just like an old farmhouse, and the whole family's like murdered with corn. And it was the most campy thing I've ever
Oh
fucking seen.
no.
Like, the last bit of like the house you walk through was cool because it was a cornfield, and this
Yeah.
like amazing scarecrow jumped out at you. And I was like, this is what I wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
So that was the one I was like we were all just like kind of disappointed in that one. But the ones that were so cool were there was like a werewolf versus Dracula versus the mummy, and
Nice.
they were so realistic. Like they would jump in my face, and I was like, ah! And Edgar's just poker face the whole time, but he's like, that was really cool. So that one was amazing. It was so cool how they did that. It's like they all escaped from their like prisons and then they were
Yeah.
all like scaring you at the end. Beautiful. 10 out of 10. And
That's
then
sick.
you would have loved it. It's like a studio tour where they walk around the different sets. So we walked
Yeah.
through the Bates Motel.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
done
was
that. They do that they do that in the normal season as well. It's awesome where he comes running out with the knife at you.
yes,
Yeah.
and you could go like take a picture with him in
Oh.
front of like the house, like
Oh,
the
that
psycho
we didn't get to
house.
do.
Oh, that was cool. And then we even got to walk through the movie set of I think his name's like K. Peel or something. I'm so bad with names. He's making the horror movie Nope, and I think he did Us
Yeah.
too. We got to walk through like the Western like cowboy set for his new
Ah,
movie.
that's sick. Nope
And
was such a good movie. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't seen it. I want to watch it, but it was so cool. I was
Yeah.
just there, like, I couldn't get scared because I was like, look at this, look at this. I was like so fascinated by the whole thing. So
Yeah.
it was amazing. They had at one point when we were there, like, there was this whole introduction where like this creepy carnival guy came out on stilts and he was like welcoming you to like the slaughter circus kind of thing. Jordan Peele, thank you, Addie. Jordan Peele's his name.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
I like his work a lot, so I
Yeah.
like I have to say
I
his
think you
name.
said Key Peel, huh?
Yeah,
He was in Key and Peel.
that's what it
That's
is.
yeah.
I was so close. I was so close.
It's all right. I knew what you were
But
talking about.
Yeah. Ryan gets
Yeah.
me. He just knows my rambling.
So are the normal rides during Halloween still open, or is it like?
Yeah, so they had a bunch of them like Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
the
it's not
Mummy, and all
like
that stuff.
it's not like the
But with
Minion ride and all the minions are like dead. No,
no, they
dang.
didn't have like the kid ones kind of open. It
Yeah,
felt like they just opened all the horror ones.
that makes sense.
But man, it was so cool. Yeah, they had like there was people in like creepy carnival costumes that were following you through the crowd. I had
Yeah,
the meanest is that when we were leaving, we were all disappointed with the ride. And I'm like, I just need to use the restroom and we can go. And this tree guy jumps out at me and scares the living shit out of me because I'm like, I'm tired. I was
yeah.
disappointed. I just need to use the restroom. And then I got like all my adrenaline back to go back home. So I was like, that was good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. But it was
Goodness.
amazing.
Yeah.
I could talk about it for hours, but I will stop there.
Yeah.
It was just, I got scared and it was great.
Speaking of people stalking you around, what are we talking about this week? Oh wait, I messed up. Cute campfire sounds. Oh my goodness, I'm all over the place.
Woo!
Where's my campfire sounds?
Waiting for
Where's
the
my campfire sounds? There they are.
Wow, we're doing great today.
Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Now, what are we talking about this week, Kimmy?
There we go. Woo! So when the moon is full and the howling of wolves echo through the night, be cautious. A wolf can be dangerous to run into, but there's a humanoid beast that is much more malicious that takes on a similar form. These beasts are cursed humans, and if you are unlucky enough to run into one in wolf form, you may be their next meal. Ooh. So here is my lovely illustration. All of our audio listeners, you can come to our YouTube and see it, or you can go to aloreing.com and check out the Aloreing podcast episode guide, and you can find it there. And it will be in the shop as a sticker. So all the places for this one. And so this week, we are going to be talking about werewolves, a transforming creature of origins that have been around since the dawn of man. Legends surrounding this humanoid beast can be found in Greek mythology, Nordic mythology, and European folklore. And that's just scratching the surface. Everywhere you go, there's a different legend of werewolves, and they seem to continue to grow in popularity to this very day. So I'm going to do a little precursor because I'm going to get messages. There is so much damn information about werewolves. I've had to put off this episode a few times because I have just been like, this is way too much. I am just scratching the surface. I'm doing what I can to give you guys a good like tip of the iceberg kind of thing going on. And there's so many like other stories of specific folklores we may talk about in the future. So I don't want to get into them. So.
Yeah, Kimmy texted me and said, I keep going down rabbit holes. I need more time. Like, okay.
And I'm not one to put things off either. So me messaging Ryan for like a fourth time, I was like, ooh, I'm sorry.
Usually it's the other way around. I'm like, I need 4 days to not do anything.
Yeah. It was me this time. So we balanced it out. So that's my precursor. Any cool werewolf facts, send them over. But no, I did my best to try to do a good surface level explanation of everything kind of going on. Okay, let's get into it. So it's unclear exactly where the origins of werewolves came from, but we do know stories about these creatures have been around for centuries. So I'm going to start by diving into some of the more popular theories scholars have. So there's a lot of old language, and I'm going to say a lot of things wrong as a precursor, but you guys are great, and you know what's going on. So here we go.
I got this one for you already, if you need
Woo!
it.
Oh, do you really? Okay, I'll just pause then. So some scholars believe the werewolf made its debut in the Epic of
Gilgamesh.
Ooh, the oldest known Western Prowess. Ooh, this poem from ancient Mesopotamia tells the story of Gilgamesh, a woman
Mm-hmm.
who rejected a potential lover because she had turned her previous lover into a wolf. This
Fair
is known
enough.
as this is this is known as the earliest surviving notable literature and the second oldest religious text after the pyramids text. So old story. Like this is the oldest of
Yeah.
them. And then the next one is from Greek mythology. So werewolves also appeared in early Greek mythology. The legend of Lycano. According to the legend of Lycano, the sons of Pele Pelisic. Oh, wow. You know, I promise I did read these and I was able to pronounce it earlier. Pelisgus angered the god Zeus when he served him a meal made from the remains of a sacrificed boy, which was Zeus's own son. As punishment and in rage, Zeus turned him and his sons into wolves.
Oh.
So we got a lot of people turning other people into wolves
Yeah.
in prehistoric times, kind of thing. And then the next one is from Nordic folklore. So the saga of Vlassungs tells the story of a father and son who discovered wolf pellets, and they had the power to turn people into wolf for 10 days. So this is as tales get a little bit more modern. We shift from people being able to curse someone to a werewolf to them actually being one by their choice.
Yeah.
Um, the father son duo that wore the pelts transformed into wolves and went on killing rampages because bonding, I guess. And their rampage ended when the father attacked his own son, causing a lethal wound. The son only survived, though, because a kind raven gave the father a leaf with healing powers.
There's a lot of
Ooh.
like Nordic, like the berserkers, like which may or may not be a real thing, where they would like dress in wolf pelts and just take a bunch of
Mhm.
mushrooms and 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 just go on rampages. So that checks out. Again, that may or may not also be true, but
You know, I it makes sense. I feel like if my personality had to be thrusted into war, the only way I could
yeah,
battle is if I'm on a shitload of shrooms and dressed
yeah.
like an
Well,
animal.
as I've said before, a lot of folklore comes from the times when people just used to just eat mushrooms like candy. So
Fair.
it just saying.
You'd see fairies too.
Yeah.
You'd see fairies too.
Uh-huh.
I want that on a shirt
Yeah.
where it's like shrooms.
Yeah.
Something like
You would
that.
see fairies too.
Beautiful. Whoa, so werewolves seem to vary quite a bit due to all the possible origins of where they came from. That was until the good old Middle Ages in medieval Europe. During this time, there was so much evidence of the widespread belief of werewolves that everyone was fearful of these creatures. They were even mentioned in medieval law codes, like King Canute, whose ecclesiastical. That's not right. I know that's not right. Is that right?
That sounds right. I don't know.
Yeah. Ordinance stated that madly audacious werewolves do not widely devastate nor bite too many of the spiritual flock. So
Sure.
don't let them eat your sheep, is
Yeah.
what that translates to. So the
Pray a
legend of
lot
the
and they won't eat your sheep. Don't worry.
yeah, pray a lot, and they won't eat your sheep. Pay your tithing, your
Yeah.
taxes. Tomatoes. So the legend of these beasts continued to grow as more sightings were reported. More laws were written about them, and people were even put on trial and accused of being a werewolf. They found their ways into the arts and became great inspiration for a deadly man beast creature of the night. For centuries, werewolves would continue to lurk in the corners of history books and even modern day stories like good old Twilight. Tales of this mystical beast continue to promote fear and curiosity in everyone who hears about them, and has resulted in a variety of versions seen all around the world that are still discussed to this very day. So, though we may never know the true origins of these creatures, we do know that the word werewolf is definitely the most popular name to describe it. So, diving into that part, the word werewolf comes from the Old English word werewolf, so WULF. So, this breaks down to the name of a man wolf. And that being said, there are so many different ways that werewolf is spelt in Old English, but they all sound the same. And since this is an audio podcast, it's not going to be helpful to go through a list where Ryan and I are just...
werewolf.
So we're not going to do that. But I also did find a bunch of different versions of werewolf from Old Norse, French, Slavic, and German folklore. However, they are all super rough to pronounce. And Google didn't help much either because it's so old. So, like, Ryan can see some of the ways they are next to it, but I have gone ahead and done the little translation. So, we can popcorn read that because I always feel that's a good way to kind of get through these little listy lists.
I'm gonna try.
You want to try the Germanic ones first?
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
We got the Werewolves, which is the man wolf. The Werewolves, which is the wolf clothed. And I'm not even gonna try Old Norse because those aren't even letters. those are symbols.
It looks like symbols that have a stroke.
Ulfindor.
Is that where Gryffindor comes from?
Ulfinor. That's Wolfindar. Yeah, wolfskin.
There we go. Wolfskin.
Yeah. Wolf coat.
Wolf outlawed.
Wolf haired.
Man dog.
She wolf.
Beast man.
Werebeast.
Moon man.
Huh. And moon beast. I
That
like
one's
moon
kind
man.
of anticlimactic, isn't it? It's like,
And then Vlabako Dlep.
It's Moon Man is like the fifth child the parents didn't want to have, but they still needed.
I don't know. Fucking Moon Man, I guess. I don't know. how many we've run out of wolf themed names, so you're just the Moon Man now.
Beautiful. That's where the Moon Man comes. So though werewolf is the most common one we know to this day, you'll see different versions of these pop up throughout lores and legends of a humanoid wolf. So now I'm headed over to Ryan so he can tell you the legends lore of this creature of the night.
All right. The first story we have is The Werewolf of Klein Krams by Karl Barst. So in the vicinity of Klein Krams near Ludwigslust in the former times, there were extensive forests that were so rich with game that the dukes often came to this region to hold their great hunts. During these days, they almost always saw a wolf, who even though he came within shooting distance, could never be killed by a huntsman. Indeed, they even had to watch as he took a piece of game before their very eyes, and something that was most remarkable to them, it ran into the village.
Oh!
Now, once that happened, a hussar from Ludwigslust was traveling through the village and just happened to enter the house of a man named Feig. When he entered the house, a flock of children stormed out of the house with a loud cry and hurried into the yard. When he asked about their wild behavior, they told him that except for a small boy, no one from the Feig family was at home, and that he, as was his custom when no one was at home, had transformed himself into a werewolf, and that they were running away from him because otherwise he would bite them. Okay. The story escalates so quickly. I apologize.
Oh, yeah. It goes from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. So soon afterward, said feared werewolf appeared, but by now he had laid aside his wolf form. The hussar turned to the Feig children and tried to learn more about the wolf game, but the child would say nothing. However, the stranger would not give up, and he finally succeeded in making a child talk. The child told him that his grandmother had a strap, and that if he put it on, he would instantly become a wolf. The hussar kindly asked the boy to make an appearance as a werewolf. At first, the boy refused, but finally agreed to do it. If the strange man would first climb into the loft so that he would be safe from him. The hussar agreed to this, and to be sure, pulled up the ladder in which he had climbed up into the loft. As soon as that had happened, the boy ran into the main room and soon came out again as a young wolf and chased away all those standing in the entryway. After the wolf had run back into the main room and come back out as a boy, the hussar climbed down and had a Feig child show him the magic belt, but he could not discover anything unusual about it.
You just saw a werewolf child, and you're totally dismissing it.
Well, he wants to know how the belt works.
Okay.
He's not dismissing it. He's like, what is going on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So afterwards, the hussar went to a forester in the vicinity of Kleinkram's and told him what he had experienced in the Feig house. Upon hearing the story, the forester, who had always been present at the great hunts near Kleinkram's, immediately thought about the werewolves who could not be wounded. He now thought that he would be able to kill the werewolf.
Oh my god.
So
Okay.
he figured out it's something to do with the belt.
Okay.
At the next hunt, he said to his friends as he rammed a bullet of inherited silver into the barrel of his rifle. So maybe not the belt. Today, the werewolf will not escape from me. His companions looked at him in amazement, but he said nothing further. The hunt soon began and did not take long before the wolf showed himself once again. Many of the huntsmen shot at him, but he remained unwounded. Finally, he approached the forester, who brought him to the ground. Everyone could see that the wolf was wounded, but soon he jumped up again and ran into the village. The huntsmen followed him, but the werewolf outran them and disappeared into the Feig farmyard. In their search, the huntsmen came into the house where they found the wolf in the grandmother's bed. They recognized it from the tail that was sticking out under the covers. The werewolf was no other than Feig's grandmother. In her pain, she had forgotten to take off the strap and thus revealed her secret. It's the granny all along.
The thing about that is I thought in him seeing the kid being like, and the kid's like, this belt turns me to the wolf.
Yeah.
And he's like, prove it. And the kid's like, I proved it. And he's like,
yeah,
what does
we'll
the belt
see.
have to do with it? You know?
And he did say this was my grandmother's belt, so that should have been a pretty big red flag straight out the gate, personally.
And there's no mention that a silver bullet will take it down.
No,
so I thought, so where I thought the story was going is that he was going to wait till the person took off the belt
I thought the
in
same
the house
thing. Yeah.
And kill them.
Yeah.
It's like, that must be the wolf. And he was like,
no, that would make too much sense.
I'm going to pull a fantasy 90s male hero and just know how to kill it with a gun and a bullet.
Yeah, I feel like maybe something got lost a little bit in translation.
Maybe.
But, you know, that's what happens when you're reading stories from like the 1800s.
That's fair.
Things get a
it's
little
just the
lost.
Grandmother. You just realize your grandmother's a werewolf.
That was an M. Night Shyamalan twist right there. And it was the grandma all along.
That poor kid.
Yeah.
You don't even have like any follow-up. Like,
everyone thought it was the dad. The small boy's like, my grandma literally has a belt that turns her into a wolf. And they're like, shut up, child.
The dude was like, a woman?
Yeah.
A werewolf?
No, it can't be your grandma. Yeah. Speaking of women transforming themselves into werewolves, my second story is called A Woman Transforms Herself into a Werewolf. In a village, there lived a woman whose first name was Trine. Her husband had been dead for a long time. The woman lived in impoverished circumstances, but nonetheless, she was always able to offer fresh meat to those who visited her. One time, a male relative came to visit her, and she offered him good, fresh meat. The man said to her, "Tell me, Trine, where do you get this nice mutton?" Trine answered, "I'll show you. Just climb up on the roof with the ladder that is leaning against the back of the house." There's a common connection of like, get out of reach of me. The man did what Trine asked him to do. In the distance, he saw a herd of sheep. Suddenly, a wolf came out of the brush, ran into the midst of the sheep, and was about to run away with one of them. The shepherd saw this in time, and with his dog took off after the wolf in order to rescue the sheep. The wolf defended itself. The man on the roof, knowing what kind of wolf it was, called out, "Trine, watch out." Suddenly, Trine was standing there in her true form. Then the shepherd began striking out at her with renewed vigor, and Trine was scarcely able to drag herself back home. So she'd just been stealing sheep from the neighbor.
It's like the neighbor that has the really nice fruit tree in the backyard, and you're like, I'm gonna go get some peaches. They're like, why are you making this?
Beating her with a cane, like, get off, leave.
I
Dang
love
werewolves.
the idea. It's an old guy that's just seen so much shit in his life.
There's so many like werewolves, like, gotta be like the pests of like the folklore, like. They're not that scary. They just like steal your sheep and like get in your house and stuff. Like,
you know, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I've been binging. I'm all caught up now. The What We Do in the Shadows, and the representation of werewolves in it is the best thing ever.
My favorite TV scene of all times is from that show. They're up on the roof about to fight the werewolves, and he pulls out a squeaky toy and throws it off the roof. And they go and they jump off the roof. Oh my goodness.
And you hear the sad dog sound.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest, toughest werewolf in the group. And
Go fetch. He just jumps.
And the way they look over, they're like,
yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my goodness. I feel like they do them dirty in that show, but
They
it's
do.
the funniest thing ever. I was laughing so hard. I had to play it back like 2 more times because I was like, that didn't just happen.
Honestly, I'd watch a whole like spin-off show about just the werewolves in that show.
Oh, it cracks me up. Wow, I'm really like reevaluating my Aloreing alignment chart.
That's why I put you'll see like they're literally just pests. Like they're just there. Anyway, this next one's called The Wolfstone by Alexander Schopner.
Ooh, and I do want to point out this illustration right now that's showing on our YouTube video. It's super cool because this is like based off the story. Oh no, it's the next one. I lied.
Is it this one? It's this one, right? Am I on the right one?
Next one.
There we go.
Yeah, that one. So
there we go.
I thought it was pretty cool. So anyway.
All right. So in the valley of Fitchel Mountains, a shepherd tended his flock in a green meadow. Several times it happened that after driving his herd home, he discovered that one of the animals was missing. All of his searching was in vain. They were lost, and they remained lost. Watching more carefully, he saw a large wolf creep out of the forest thicket and seize a lamb.
No.
Angrily, he chased after him, but the enemy was too fleet. Before he could do anything about it, the wolf had disappeared with the lamb. The next time, he took an expert marksman with him. The wolf approached, but the marksman's bullet bounced off him.
Could you imagine?
Yeah. Just what?
You're like, they're not supposed to do that. He like shoots himself
why did it make
in
a
the
ricochet
foot?
sound on a wolf?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So luckily, this hunter's he's a sharp lad. It occurred to him to load his weapons with dried pith from an elderbush. The next day, he got off a shot, and the robber ran howling into the woods. The next morning, the shepherd met an old neighbor woman. Excuse me. I just wanted to look up pith. Pith is like the stem, like the inside of a stem, just so we're all on the same page here.
He threw some plants into his gun.
Yeah, he took from an elderbush. Okay, so the next morning, the shepherd met an old neighbor woman with whom he was not on the best of terms. Noticing that she was limping, he asked her, "Hey neighbor, what you got? What's wrong with your leg there, huh?" It did not want to go along with you. "What business is it of yours?" she answered, hurrying away.
Can you do an old lady voice with that? Just like, so we can get in the story?
"Bark, bark, 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 bark," she answered, hurrying away. The shepherd took note of this.
That's
Why is she
strange.
barking at me?
Why was she barking at me and howling as I left?
So this woman, as they do, had long been suspected of practicing evil magic. People claimed to have seen her on the Heiberg of Swabi and Kotterberg, and also the Heugh near Halberstad, which everybody knows is where women go to practice evil magic. He reported her. She was arrested, interrogated, and flogged with a rod of alderwood. The witch hunts are just so wild. Just the guy's like, that's a witch, and they're like, oh, let's go just beat her. Like,
There used to be a TikTok when like TikTok was first a thing.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it, where it's a woman saying, oh, she's like, oh, the title of the book actually says this. And the dude's like, you can read? You're a witch. And she's like, no, I'm an idiot. I'm
Yeah.
stupid. I can't figure. What does that letter look like?
Yeah.
You know it's a letter? It's the funniest thing ever. Oh, it cracks me up. Okay. There you are.
So she was flogged with a rod,
Nice.
with which others suspected of magic, but who had been denied the charges had also been punished. So this has been going on. She was then locked up in chains, but suddenly the woman disappeared from prison, and no one knew where she had gone. Sometime later, that poor, unsuspecting shepherd saw the hated wolf break out of the forest once again. However, this time it had not come to attack the herd, but the shepherd itself, perhaps for getting her kidnapped, interrogated, and flogged. There was a furious struggle. The shepherd gathered all of his strengths together against the teeth and claws of the ferocious beast. It would have been his death if the hunter had not come by in the nick of time. In vain, he fired a shot at the wolf and then struck it down with his knife. The instant that blood began to flow from the wolf's side, the old woman from the village appeared in the field before them, writhing and twisting terribly. They finished killing her and buried her 20 feet beneath the earth.
God.
That's a very deep hole.
I was going to say, I can't even get like 3 feet in the beach and be like, I'm done.
So at the place where they buried the woman, they erected a large stone cross, which they named the Wolf Stone. In memory of these events, it was never peaceful and orderly in the vicinity of the stone. The malicious messenger and the burning man, in the language of the people, still goes about this dangerous business here. So what we learned here is if you think your neighbor might be a wolf, call the cops immediately, have her arrested, interrogated, and flogged, but make sure you got your buddy with you when she inevitably gets out.
She's coming for you.
Because she's coming for you. Yeah. That's the lesson there, everybody.
That's the thing, is every time she was hit with that wood, she was like,
I'm gonna get this motherfucker.
I like to think his name is Jeremy. She's like, fucking Jeremy.
Yeah. I eat one lamb.
It's not even his lamb.
Yeah.
I decided to change for the better, and this is what I... Oh, I freaking love that. Oh, that's great.
All right. Ooh. Now we're going to learn about how the wolves can be Catholic. All right. So this is the Catholic priest and the werewolf. So 3 years before the arrival of John in Ireland, it chanced that a priest who was journeying from Ulster towards Meath was benighted in a certain woods on the borders of Meath. While in company with only a young lad... he was watching by a fire, we're just going to move on, which he kindled under the branches of the spreading tree. Lo, a wolf came up to them and immediately addressed them to this effect. Rest secure and be not afraid, for there's no reason you should fear who no fear is, bork bork. The travelers being struck with astonishment and alarm, the wolf added some unorthodox words referring to God. So the priest then implored him and adjured him by Almighty God and faith in the Trinity not to hurt them, but to inform them what the creature was, in the shape of a beast, uttered human words. The wolf then proceeded to explain how he is in fact human, but cursed to assume the form of a wolf every few years. The reason the werewolf approached the priest was to ask him to give last rites, as the werewolf was dying. He beheld a she-wolf, who under the shape pouring forth human sight and groans, on seeing priests having saluted him with human courtesy, she gave thanks to God, who in this extremely bad visit, I'm sorry. So she then received from the priest all the rites of the church duly performed, as far as the last communion. This also she demanded earnestly, asking him to complete his offices by giving her the viaticum, which I am not sure what that is because I'm not Catholic.
So this is a lot of old words where she's asking to be forgiven. That's what's happening right now. She's just like, I've been a werewolf. This has been my punishment. I'm coming to you because I'm at the end of my life and I want to be forgiven for my sins I couldn't control.
Gotcha. Oh, so I looked at viaticum is literally just like last rites. So yes. The priest was hesitant to give the wolf a communion, but eventually submitted to their request. So turns out, wolves can be Catholic. Now we know.
Just at the end of their life, though.
Yeah, only at the end. Spend the rest of your time ravaging lambs.
I'm so surprised that a majority of these stories were all about female werewolves.
I think all of them were female werewolves.
No, there's the... Oh, yeah.
The first one was a grandma.
I thought it was the dad. Uh-huh.
First one was a grandma. Second one was a sister. Third one was the neighbor lady. And the fourth one, it just says she-wolf, so...
Okay, hashtag she-wolf power, if that's a good one.
Yeah.
And the second thing, there's a thing I want to talk about in my section that, like, everything makes sense to me now. Because I was like, this is really interesting. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like, the light bulb has clicked.
I should have changed my modern takes to just talk about Shakira song She-Wolf and just broken down the lyrics.
That's exactly what should have happened. Yeah. There should have been a karaoke thing.
My bad. Oh, there we go. She's the she-wolf in the closet. She's the she-wolf. Let her breathe. Something like that.
We could have had the moon logo jumping on the text.
Aloreing karaoke coming soon. Anyway. Yeah, so those are my stories. That's all I got.
They were delightful. I'm actually really happy with them for the most part.
Yeah, those were solid. So let's just jump to a little breaky break. Real quick. Only if you're listening, though. If you're on YouTube, you just get to look at this sweet Davy Jones collection, which is hype as hell. First off, I need some like music while this is playing. It's like don't. Anyway,
Chris, could you put some like piratey music for the background of this ad?
Not the Disneyland one because we'll get in some trouble for that. But anyway, here's the Davy Jones collection. There's a tank top, there's a flag, there's a long sleeve, there's stickers, there's bottles, multiple shirts. Based off our episode with Fairy Tale Fix, where we covered Davy Jones, probably one of my favorite episodes we've done. If you haven't listened to it, that one got real weird. I don't know how else to explain it. I learned a couple things. That's all I'm gonna say. I learned a couple things. So go get yourself some Davy Jones stuff. I for one am gonna get all of them.
Yeah, the flag says sink or swim.
Yeah.
Brian and I have been working on putting it on sweatshirts in some different ways for all of our pirate lovers out there. So I know I am going to get the tank top so I can feel even more empowered and threatening when I work out.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
That's all I want in life. To feel the power of a true pirate.
Yep. You get a long sleeve one for the pump cover, right? And then once you're halfway through your workout, take it off. You got the tank top underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Bada boom. Double layered Davy Jones.
Yeah.
CPA.
It's the progression. And then if I can put it on a swimsuit top that looks like a sports bra,
We might be
it's
able to.
triple threat. Triple threat, you guys. And if not, you got the water bottle because you gotta be comfortable with what you're comfortable with. You could do that, and then take a sip from your water bottle. Triple threat. Woo,
I
that was fun.
have a really good idea for a Davy Jones swimsuit, but we're going to talk about it after the show because it is not appropriate for YouTube. Anyway, moving on.
So check out the shop.
Yeah, so check out the shop. Maybe, depending on how our conversation goes after this episode. So let's get back to the show, should we?
Yeah, let's get back.
Do I do? There we go. All right.
Oh my goodness. Welcome back, campers. We hope you enjoyed that little break. Thank you for listening to our ads. It kind of helps keep our show going, keeps you updated what's happening in our little folklore campground, cryptid campground kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's talk about the appearance and some historical events with werewolves. So, werewolves have two different forms. They're human and they're beast. So, in animal beast form, they are seen as a humanoid wolf hybrid. So, most commonly, they are very large in size, about 8 feet tall or 2.4 meters for everyone listening outside of the US. And there is nothing but pure muscle on them. And they're covered in fur from head to toe. So their fur ranges from shades of brown to black to dark blue, which makes it seem that they can hide really easy in the dark of night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking at their face, it will seem like a normal wolf, but their eyes aren't wild. They will appear human. So normally in legends, people can tell who the werewolf is if they get close enough because they see the eyes of them, and eyes are the windows to the soul and all that fun stuff. And some legends say when they open their mouth, they may have like extra sets of teeth and they're like more grisly looking, or they'll talk in their human voice, which makes me kind of uncomfortable. Because like, I imagine someone has like, I want to say like a weak voice or something that's like, imagine if you're talking, you saw a werewolf coming at you and he was like, beware of my dangerous, vicious attack. You know, I could not take that seriously. I like would be scared and then laughing kind of.
Like if they, for some reason, sounded like Michael J. Fox. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that. Put a pin in it. Yeah. So, according to some Swedish accounts, the werewolf could be distinguished from a regular wolf by the fact that they would run on 3 legs, stretching the 4th one back to look like a tail.
I'm totally a wolf, guys. Got my tail back there. Don't you see it?
See it? See, that's 3 legs.
That ain't tail. My leg. That's a tail.
That's a tail. And then in human form, it's a bit trickier to figure out if they are a werewolf or not, but there are a few things to look out for. The most common is they will have a unibrow, or both eyebrows will meet very close to the bridge of the nose. Oh, so extra hairy kind of thing. That was the other one. They will have curved fingernails, low set ears, and wide swinging stride, like a pit bull dog.
Gotcha. Imagine you're just a person in like the 1800s and you just have a unibrow and someone just murks you because they're like, that's a werewolf. Like
it's very, if you're a person, this is astrology thing, if you're a person that has like a lot of earth and fire in your chart, and especially in your main 3, you probably fit this as personality looks, which is funny because like a lot of fire signs are typically like more like out there and extravagant as personalities. So it's like they're just bullying like the loud extroverts at this point.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, and they'll like always look like a little bit stronger. I'm like, you guys just hating at this point. And then another important thing is they will be absolutely exhausted after a full moon transformation. So if they look like this, a full moon just happened and they have to like sleep for 4 days, they may be a werewolf. So, all safe bets. And now, what makes a werewolf is its ability to shapeshift from human to beast form, which is known as, I should have looked up how to say this.
Lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy. Okay, let me say it 3 times because I'm going to say it a lot in this episode. Lycanthropy,
Or
lycanthropy,
lycanthropy.
lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy. Either way.
There we go. So this transformation, temporary or permanent, can go down in many different ways. So the animal may be an individual metamorphosed. It could be that is their double who the activities lead. So what happens is there's like 2 of them that come from it,
Gotcha.
and one is the human form, and then one is the beast form, and so like they transform from one to the other.
Yeah,
so they're never just the beast or never just.
So the first one they actually turn into the werewolf, right? And the second one they kind of like warg into a wolf that's already out there.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly. I was like, this is really confusing to explain.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got it through. Then the third one, the soul leaves the body, and then the soul becomes the werewolf.
Okay.
And while the soul is the werewolf, the body just goes in like a trance-like state,
Gotcha.
kind of like mare riding that we talked about in our like nightmare episode. And then it may be no more than the messenger of the human being, the real animal, or the animal's familiar spirit. So there's also the one where they have a familiar, is the best way to think of it, and that's the werewolf version of them. So there's a lot of like weird ways it can happen, and the most common, of course, is the one where they switch from human to wolf, human to wolf, human to wolf, with the cycle of the full moon.
Yeah.
And with all these possibilities of how a werewolf transformation goes down, along with a physical transformation, there is a behavioral one. So regardless of how the cursed individual is as a human, so whether they're like, I don't know, like Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, like personality-wise, in wolf form, they will be vicious, like period, end of sentence kind of thing. They are known to attack on the spot due to an incurable hunger that they can't control. They can kill many people in one night and feast on them, being completely unaware of what they did in their wolf form. And when they turn back to a human, they just feel absolutely exhausted. So very Jekyll and Hyde, but minus being aware of kind of what's going on too much. Which I think is, I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like not knowing what's going on. Like, I've never been blackout drunk because I remember everything. Like, I'll get toasty, folks, and when I get toasty, everyone's like, do you remember that happened? I'm like, I can tell you everything.
Maybe
like,
you do turn into a werewolf, you just don't remember.
Maybe I am turning into a werewolf and I just don't know it yet. Mm-hmm. So
I am tired all the time.
That's fair. I do nap a lot for a human being. What is iron deficiency in women, though? Am I right?
Wait a minute.
Man, I take so many iron pills. I hate it so much. All right. I'm so excited for this. I worked really hard on the event history segment, and it's going to get crazy.
Nice.
So it was easier to believe that all these gruesome murders of people being eaten and slashed are done by cursed wolf-like creatures, right? But did you know many of these quote-unquote werewolves for centuries were actually serial killers? So in 1521, Frenchmen Pierre Bergot and Michel Verdun allegedly swore an alliance to the devil and claimed to have atoned that turned them into wolves. After confessing to brutally murdering several children, they were both burned to death at the stake.
Fair enough.
So Gilbert Garnes, known as the Wolf of Dole, was another 16th century Frenchman who claimed to fame was an atonement with a wolf morphing abilities. According to legend, as a wolf, he viciously killed children and ate them. He, too, was burned at the stake for his monstrous crimes.
So I want to know what ointment was going around the 15th or 16th century that was just making people think they
we're
were
gonna
wolves.
we're gonna get into it.
All right.
So there was,
That's
and
two ointments in a row.
this is a drug thing, but like people, like these men were dismissing a lot of these terrible crimes they were committing, saying they're like, "Oh, I turned into a wolf. It wasn't
Yeah.
really me," you know. So whether Burgert, Vernon, or Garnier were mentally ill, acted under the influence of hallow
Hallucinogenic.
hallucinogen. I knew that word. Hallucinogen substances, or were simply cold-blooded killers, is up for debate. But it is likely it didn't matter to the superstitious Europeans of the 16th century. To them, such heinous crimes could not be committed by no other than a horrific beast. It was much easier to say these people were possessed by something much darker than them being a cold blooded murderer. And with the crimes being so malicious, the beast liking labeling them as a werewolf just made sense. Like, people were like, oh, this guy's got to be a werewolf. Because, like,
Yeah.
it just didn't make sense, like, why someone would just go kill children,
Well,
you
if they're
know?
claiming they're a werewolf and they claim they took an ointment that turned them into a wolf, like, who was a 16th century European peasant to say that's not true?
Right, and with all the drugs everyone was apparently
Yeah.
on, you know? So it's wild. And this leads to the next thing. And this is when I was like, oh my god, like it all makes more sense. Is there were the werewolf witch trials. And so, as legends of the vicious werewolves circulated, it wasn't long until locals became extremely paranoid and even went as far as setting up a werewolf hunt and killing people to whom they believed they were werewolves. So, starting in the early 15th century, were the werewolf witch trials that popped up in Switzerland and spread throughout Europe in the 16th century, peaking in the 17th and coming to a close at the end of the 18th.
Wow.
Now, you may have figured it out already, and if you did, Mothman is giving you an invisible gold star right now. But the werewolf witch trials were a combination of the witch trials and the werewolf trials. So it was believed werewolves and witches were hand in hand with one another over the course of the late Middle Ages to the early modern period. These weren't as poppin' as the witch trials, and many people were still accused of being werewolves and sent to death, though. So, several scholarly papers reported that around 30,000 were executed as werewolves in France alone between the
Wow.
1520s and 1630s. And I can't believe we were never talked about this in
Yeah.
school, because the thing is, it makes sense why all the stories are more about like women
Yeah.
werewolves, because they were like, oh, and like the girl's like, I'm actually not a witch, and then they could be like,
Then you're a wolf.
she's a wolf. Yeah, so that, like, I don't know, I just thought that was
Look,
so
her nails
crazy.
are long.
Her nails are long, she's independent, she hunts, she's a wolf, you know, like, it's crazy to me. It felt like it was like one end of the spectrum they jumped to or the other,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't know. This just like absolutely blew my mind. So at this period, many were accused of lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy. Yeah.
Lycanthropy. There we go. Lycanthropy. Wolf riding, which is a lot like mare riding, which we talked about, or wolf charming. And like we talked about it before, it was way easier to say someone was a demonic beast wolf than the idea of someone could perform an awful murder. So it's really interesting because all the historic serial killers I could find were all men that said that they did it because they were werewolves. But all the people that died in the werewolf witch trials, like, they were mostly just women.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just
Yeah.
makes you think.
Yeah.
And oh, I don't know. I went down on a rabbit hole with this for a while, so I had to kind of like pull up for a minute and think about it. So in 1598, the case of Peter Stump, aka Bedburg Werewolf, became one of the most famous wolf witch trial cases we know today. Rumors spread that Peter turned into a wolf-like creature at night and devoured many citizens of Bedburg. Locals were quick to blame Peter for the gruesome killings of these citizens, having many hunters corner him and say how they saw him shapeshift from a wolf beast to his human form. They interrogated him for hours using means of torture until they got him to quote unquote confess for their savage killings, and consumed the remains of many animals, women, men, and even children. When asked how he was able to transform, he explained he had an enchanted belt that gave him the power to do so. But the belt was never actually found, so they just were like, well, we still think he murdered him,
There's a
so
belt out there. Trust us.
yeah, they're like, no, no,
I
no.
prayed
There's
on
the
it.
belt. Jesus told us
Yeah.
there's a belt, so there's a belt. So sadly, he was executed for these, and then everyone was still fearful. They're like, oh my gosh, like wolves are running rampage. There are people we know. There are people in our communities, and they're just killing people off. The werewolf trials reached Louvain in the 17th century and would become the most common form of the witch trials in the county. So even this took over the witch trials in some areas because it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Pretty much, it got big hype, and then they were killing all the women in the village, and they're like, well, now we can't get lucky, so it kind of stopped. They're like, so these trials soon died down, and this creature went from something very vicious to something a little bit more romanticized in literature. It even became common to talk about how one could become this mysterious, hungry creature of the night.
I'd like to put an emphasis on romanticized in literature, going back to our previous conversations of if you Google Wolfman, the first search is like My Night with the Wolfman, a book. So yeah, things have drastically changed.
Listen, I feel there's always like the things like there's two types of girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is there's two type of hetero girls. There's the ones that like the vampire, and there's the ones that like the werewolf.
Team
And
Jacob.
I'm a person that's writing a comic about a werewolf in Red Riding Hood, so I can't say anything.
There's no room to judge. And no
No
judgment given. I'd like to point out, I'm
respect.
not judging anyone on it. I think it's great. I just think it's
No
funny
killing.
how drastically times have changed.
Oh yeah. Well, like the wolves are like it's different energy.
Yeah.
It's just like it's the mystery of like you could kill me, but you love me
Yeah.
so much.
And so
You're
far,
not
they're
going
the
to.
only like folklore monster we've done that aren't like creeps.
You know, isn't that pretty great?
Yeah.
But going back to your stories, majority of the stories are of women. So
Women wolves. Yeah. So
listen,
maybe that's why.
maybe that's why.
Perhaps.
Maybe that's the difference.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I can't say much. I've always been like depends on the season. If I tend to be more werewolf. I just think I don't know. What are you? Are you team Jacob or team Edward?
You know, I was team Jacob until he
Oh.
imprinted on a child.
Yeah.
You know, and that could mean whatever.
Right.
But, you know, things got weird. Also, just was not a fan of Twilight in general.
The masterpiece of
Yeah.
my teenage
You
years.
imprinted on my daughter?
What was the name? Renesmee? The worst name. I hate
Yeah.
that name. I'm sorry. I was like that. I get the really troubled bitchy vampire in the family and her history. But if I was a vampire,
Yeah.
I want to be a bitch in a lot of our past tracks. So I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was like, you have one of the hottest vampire boyfriends. What's your problem? Anyway, I was like, Jasper looks like he's gonna have a stroke any minute. So he's cute, but
Yeah.
Team Alice all the way.
I was
Anyway,
just going to say Team Alice all day.
she's so cute.
The best.
Listen, if I always feel Twilight should have been a little bit more gay as a personal thing because
Was it not?
depends where you read it from. Anyway,
Speaking of
hashtag
Twilight.
Team Alice. Oh,
How do you
sorry,
become
I
a
love
werewolf?
this. How do you become a werewolf? So if you're like, hey, werewolf life sounds kind of sexy, or you find yourself as Team Jacob, like Ryan was at one point, and I am 80% of the year. There's different ways to go about it. So the most common one is putting on a belt made of wolfskin, like we've talked about. Simplest method, very quick, take it on and off, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yep.
Um,
Just make sure
I
you
do.
hide it from your grandchild.
Yes, definitely hide it from your grandchild. They get into everything. You
Yeah.
gotta put it above their eye level.
Yep.
Um, I do want you to know the amount of times I read the word wolf strap and I got uncomfortable was too damn high. And it wasn't even in like anything sexual. It was
See
just
my
like,
wolf strap.
yeah, I was just like, this feels
Hmm.
uncomfortable. I don't like it. Like, kudos to you, but I'm not emotionally ready for that verbiage this early in the morning. Um, the next is drinking rainwater out of the footprint of the beast,
Okay.
um, or drinking from an enchanted stream.
All right.
Next is get cursed, go piss off a witch or god,
Classic. Classic.
uh, get attacked or bitten by a werewolf. The fun fact with this is actually the least common way to turn into one because you could die. So
Fair.
maybe avoid this one. They ain't vampires, so. The next is rubbing your body with magic salve, which is also known as flying ointment. So this is the ointment they were talking about.
Oh.
So, flying ointment is a hallucinogenic ointment said to have been used by witches in the practice of European witchcraft for as far back as the early modern period. So, it was just an ointment that made you powerful and a witch, which was probably just a lot
Huh.
of cocaine in a
Yeah,
bottle.
that's what I'm thinking.
So that's the thing. You can probably get it if you can ship it. I don't know. You guys are creative out there. Send us some links because I'm so curious. um, in Italy, France, and Germany, it was said anyone can turn to a werewolf on a certain Wednesday or Friday if they slept outside on a summer night with a full moon shining directly on their face. So,
Yeah, they're just trying to cut back on campers.
yeah, they're like, this is how we handle the homeless problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could house them. Nah, no, 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 no,
No,
no, no,
they're
no,
gonna
no.
become werewolves.
They're going to become werewolves.
Take them out.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. The next is, this one cracked me up. In Brazil, it's believed that when a woman has 7 daughters and the 8th child is a man, they will later become a werewolf.
Like, if you got 7 sisters, like, fair enough. Like,
you would be you'd be using some of that flying ointment
yeah,
too.
I had 1 sister, and that's plenty. 7? Goodness.
I don't have any sisters, but my brothers have one, so bless their hearts. Because I was pure emotional chaos.
6 sisters, whoa. I think I can handle. 7?
7?
No.
6 sisters.
6 is enough.
Oh, imagine when they all sing. That must be a hell of a day. Oh. Oh, that's great. And then the next is in Hungarian folklore. So this is a little bit sad. If an infant suffered abuse by a parent or a curse around the age of 7, if they left the house to go hunting at night, they could change into a wolf form whenever they wanted. Oh. So it's like hard life thing, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh. And an adult could become a werewolf by passing 3 times through an arch made of birch, and it has to have the help of a wild rose spine. So you gotta find the perfect arch in the forest that makes you feel uncomfortable and be like, you gotta go through that, and then you're good. So with all these methods to become one, it's hard to see if they... What did I write? Man, give me a second. I had a moment with this notes. I was panic writing this morning. So with all these methods to become one, it is hard to see if they would work until the full moon. So to tell if it did work, and you got 28 days till the next full moon cycle, cut a piece of your flesh, and if you look inside the wound and you see fur, bada bing, bada boom, you are a werewolf.
Good to know.
Now, if there's a sneaking suspicion that a loved one is, if they are going out every full moon, you're not seeing them, they come back exhausted for 4 days, try to catch them the day of the transformation. And then see if they're sleepy after. It's kind of weird because it's like you don't want to be in the vicinity when they transform, but you got to
Yeah.
catch them. So I don't know. Do some camera work. There's cameras in
Yeah.
everything. Um, Make sure it's a camera that actually captures, because if it's
Hmm.
blurry, Ryan's gonna come for you. If we blurred anything. You were ready to fight. That was
Yep.
amazing.
It's not a threat. It's a promise.
That needs to be on it. We have. It's so funny. I feel like we finally got to the point where we have like our little sayings for merch now, and I love it so much. Woo! So now, if you've done the steps above and this werewolf life isn't as sexy as you thought, don't worry. I got a list to take care of that for you.
Oh, good.
Some of them may result in your death, but hey, you know what? You gotta do what you gotta
Yeah,
do.
do
So
what
the
you gotta do.
first, get shot with a silver bullet. Easy
Okay.
peasy.
Yep.
Lemon squeezy.
Check.
Um, the next is just go do some laps. So ancient Greek and Romans believed the power of exhaustion in curing people of werewolfism. So once physically exhausted, they would be purged of the curse.
All right.
So
Hard
exercise
work.
you drop.
Yep. A bullet or hard work.
Yeah, so they will both kill you in the
Yep.
end. The next is to be burnt at the
Yep.
stake.
You will, in
Um,
fact, be cured because you will no longer exist.
yes, but you'll be cured.
You
So
will be
that's
cured.
the most important thing. This one you won't die from is some good old wolfsbane.
Okay.
So in Barovian folklore of the early modern period, a wolfsang, also wolfsbane, was a charm against wolves, and it was a spell for wolf attacks. So like then they couldn't get you. Um, the illustration I did is wolfsbane in like a
Gotcha.
little jar. So that's these little cute purple flowers that bring me joy. I can't remember if they're like a little bit poisonous or not. So if you see it in the wild, do a little bit more research than I did.
Yeah, probably don't eat a plant you see in the wild. That's
No,
that's probably rule number one. Don't ever do that.
especially if someone provides it to you while saying something in a rhyming
Yeah,
scheme.
oh, definitely don't do that.
Just avoid it
Yeah.
altogether. And then the last one is get some surgery.
Oh,
Ironically, this is the least effective one.
checks
So,
out.
many of the cures advocated by medieval medical practitioners proved fatal to the patients. So they believed that by striking the forehead with a scalp or knife, you could cure it. The person.
Can you really call stabbing someone in the head surgery?
It says striking, so I
Well,
feel.
what's the difference? Like, Your Honor, I didn't stab them. I struck them with a knife.
I did the medical way to
Yeah.
do it.
No, that doesn't really sound like a surgery.
Yeah, so it's a medieval surgery.
Yeah. I would
So-
say start with method 2, just do some laps, and then go from there.
Method 2, wolfsbane, and then I don't know. I think you should spin a wheel for the next
Yeah.
3.
You could do like the silver bullet, like maybe like shoot yourself in like the toe or something.
Yeah.
Like, because it doesn't say kill them with a silver bullet. It just says
Just
shoot them with a silver bullet. So like,
Yeah, just do like your pinky
but
toe.
probably
You
don't
need
do
it.
that either. Probably don't do any of these except number 2. I'm just gonna throw that out there,
Oh, we'll
just in case. Just gonna throw it out there.
just so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
We're not professionals. So now, if you want to get more religious with how you cure this,
Okay.
The Catholic
These
Church
got
has
to be
got it.
perfectly safe.
exorcism.
Yep.
Classic. The next one is address the werewolf by their Christian name
Oh.
3 times.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. So try that one second.
So this one is Saint Herbert performed this to help cure people of
Okay.
werewolfism. So there's records of this one. I think this is a good one if they have a Christian name.
Yeah.
Though. Have someone scald the werewolf, which is a personal
Bad dog. Bad.
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 I was
No.
like,
That's what we do in the shadows. That's literally what we do in the shadows.
you need the
No.
newspaper and the water stuff.
It's a bad dog.
Woo! That's my favorite. That's the one we should
Okay,
be doing.
start with that one, then vigorous exercise, then Christian name.
We got a whole list for you guys. There's all the you can experiment. Everyone should experiment with what they're into respectfully and consensually. And then when you're done with that, listen, you can come back. We got you.
Yeah.
And then the next is piercing the werewolf hands with nails.
Okay.
Very, very
maybe don't do that one either.
Have a friend help.
Yeah.
And of course, make an alliance with the devil. Be like, hey, I'm kind of tired of this.
Yeah,
and then old
I'd put
Satan
that as
will
number 4.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
the surgery for sure.
So I'd say in order of the ones you should do, try scolding them.
Yes.
Then try exercise.
Yes.
Then call them by the Christian name.
Yeah.
And if none of that works, make a deal with the devil.
Oh, perfect.
The rest of them, don't do.
Exorcism's classic, though.
Okay, maybe an exorcism. But you might need it after the 4th. Okay, so I'll say 5 of those you should try. The other 5, don't do. Leave that to the 16th century.
Some things have dated very poorly.
Yeah.
Don't do the ones that have dated. If you read it and you go,
yeah,
then you shouldn't be doing that one. Now, Ryan, it is time.
Okay.
For our favorite segment.
All right.
It is time for Is It Science or the Church? And I want you to know, I know you'll get this right. I have zero doubts in my mind.
Well, this one seems obvious. This one's got to be the church, considering how much we've talked about the church today.
Now listen.
No way.
You have time.
No, I'm locking it in.
Okay. Now listen. This is one of those legends that we haven't run into yet because both the church and science have very strong beliefs in what's going on.
Well, I don't know what to play for that one.
You should play
both.
I'm a very glass is full.
Yeah.
Full person. So let's do the cheers. I feel like you deserve it. You work hard.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go, Ryan.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I feel like that one was a bit of a softball, personally, but I'll take it.
But you would have never guessed it. You would have been like, it's both. You know?
No, that wouldn't have. That's never been an option.
Yeah. So now you know that.
Shit. Now there's that. My odds just went down 22% in the next guess, and I'm not a fan of that. I had a 50-50 before.
It's like the tutorial of a game where it's much easier.
Yeah. 33 episodes in, odds are now 33%. So
333, that's my spirit
that's
number.
Not
so
good.
We're doing
that's
great.
not good.
Woo! All
right.
right. So starting with science, I want to talk about some of the most credible possibilities for werewolfism and what it could really be. So the first one is Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. It's a condition discovered in the 1978 that causes lack of speech, seizures, distinctive facial features, difficulty breathing, and intellectual challenges, which I struggle with words so bad. So in 1725, a boy by the name of Peter was found wandering naked on all fours through the German forest. Many thought he was a werewolf, or at least raised by wolves, because he couldn't speak and would use his hands to eat, which resulted in him being referred to as Peter the Wild Boy. It wasn't long until King Greg I and King Greg II adopted the boy, having Peter live out the rest of his lives as their pet in England. Lots of problems with that.
Yeah.
But it's one of the theories of what
God save the king.
They were all on drugs anyway, so we don't. They may have been like, "Oh, it's a wolf." And the next is full moon power. This is one I actually am very team. Makes sense to me because I practice astrology stuff. So another popular theory is the full moon energy. according to a study conducted in the Australia Calvary Master Newcastle Hospital, a full moon brings out the beast in many humans. The study found out that of the 91 violent acute behavior incidents at the hospital between August 2008 and July 2009, 23% happened during a full moon.
Oh.
Patients attacked a staff and displayed wolf-like behavior such as biting, spitting, scratching. Although many were under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time, it is unclear why they became intensely violent when the full moon was full. And this is when, like, I'm not going to get on my astrology soap opera box. I'm just going to, like, lean my arm on it on the side. Um, it's believed that the full moon, because we're mostly water, affects our moon. That's why there's a lot more accidents for during a full moon. That's why people get more aggressive during a full moon. That's why people don't like to really travel. And that's why in a lot of countries they actually don't perform a lot of life-saving surgeries during a full moon. A
Interesting.
lot of my friends that I have that have worked in the ER specifically hate working during a full moon because they say it just gets fucking weird and they don't know why. Like,
Huh.
it's just there's more chaos, like there's just something in the air. So it's it's this whole theory that the moon affects us like it affects the ocean. And I think it's really cool and I strongly
Yeah.
believe in it, but that's just
Interesting.
that's a Kimmy moment kind of thing. So I try to keep my stuff out of it a little sometimes, unless they're hot. The next one is a hallucinogen, which we have been talking about. Drugs are real, people, and if everyone's on them,
Mm-hmm.
they can think they're a wolf real easy. So I don't want to get more into that. There was a lot
No,
of
that one,
word
that one
plants.
just makes sense.
Yeah,
Like that one just checks out completely.
just straight to the point. I love
Yeah.
it. There are also some scientific theories of what makes someone a werewolf, but these ones really don't hold as much weight at the end of the day. So I'm not going to say any of this right. So just just hang on, just buckle up, hold on to the cryptid next to you, and we'll get through it. So many modern day researchers explain that being a werewolf is either a result of
Congenital?
congenital Prypris, a rare inherited metabolic disorder, which pretty much that's when people get like reddish teeth and scoliosis.
Oh.
So kind of werewolfy, I guess. Or they suffer from hypertrichosis. That's not it. A rare genetic disorder caused by excessive hair growth. So it wasn't until Ian Woodward, author of the book The Werewolf Delusion, shut down both of these. Ian explains how mythological werewolves in human form rarely displayed any type of werewolf appearance. Like we said, you won't know if you changed one, so you gotta cut yourself a little bit just to see. He also said that hypertrichios is ruled out from happening on a large scale, which doesn't make sense with the high amount of wolf sightings that we saw, especially during the medieval times. Because it was such a low chance of it happening, you could have all these people have it.
Yeah. I looked it up.
So
It's wild. You just get like hair all over your face.
yeah, you're just covered in it.
It's like a beard, but just all the way up.
Yeah, which it's crazy, but it was such a low thing. So
Yeah.
those were shut down. Like they get brought up all the time. People are like, nah. The next one is getting rabies and becoming a werewolf. They this one's great because I think my brother would have been a werewolf.
Does your brother get rabies?
I can't remember because I'm a really bad sister. I remember he got attacked by he listens to this, so Brandon, please tell me. He got like attacked by a dog and I think they had to go to the hospital, but my memory's really fuzzy
Goodness.
and I think my mom was panicking saying rabies a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know if
I
he
mean,
really got it.
if you like just got bit, as long as you get the shot, you're good to go. It's if you let the rabies like stay, then it's GG's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was pretty wild. It was
Yeah.
a fun day. It was like a back trail in a country town and
Yeah. Yeah, always
yeah.
get your shot if you get bit by an animal. There's some real advice for you.
If you take anything from this
Because by the
episode.
time you get rabies symptoms, it's game over. That's the
Okay.
scary part about rabies.
Really? Man,
Uh-huh.
I don't even want to look it up. It sounds
I
terrifying.
mean, it's 2022 that we got the shots. If you get bit, just go get a shot and you're fine.
You won't become a werewolf, is
No,
what
but if
we
you
wanna
wait
get
30
out.
days, then this might happen.
Yeah, and well, like the thing is, the problem with this theory is we'd have so many more werewolves running around.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in my heart there would be an anti-werewolf campaign if this was a thing. There would be
Fair
posters of
enough.
get your rabies shots
Yeah.
or become this guy, and it would be like a really awkward picture of Jacob from Twilight. So I know for a fact this is a completely
I don't know.
dismissible.
That one to me kind of actually makes sense.
Really?
Like,
Nah.
I mean, rabies isn't super common now, but it used to be way more common before we like started like exterminating like rats and stuff like that. Like,
That's fair.
and
I just
before rabies kills you, it makes you go crazy.
oh, see, again, I was on so many rabbit holes. I probably just didn't dive into this one as much. I'm really like, I think the capitalist marketing person in me is like, why didn't we see a poster campaign for it?
Yeah.
We had a campaign about Davy Jones' locker in the Navy. We would have had a werewolf
Yeah.
campaign in America, and I think that's
Problem is,
where my
everyone who started making the campaign caught rabies and then couldn't do it
they
anymore.
they eat the homework kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing, just like your dog did.
Yeah.
And then the next one is a rare psychological condition that causes people to believe they're changing into a wolf or other animals. However, this idea of lycanthropy uh, could be transmitted in this way and is not part of the original myths and legends and only appears in relatively recent beliefs. So, lycanthropy can also be met as the main content of delusion. So, for example, the case of a woman has been reported who, during episodes of acute psychosis, complained of being four different species of animals.
Wild.
So this is wild because the church also believed that this played a major role in what makes werewolves werewolves.
Okay.
So gods or Christian saints, whether the saints were good or bad, had the power to cast divine punishment known as the curse of I can't say this word anymore. I'm sorry.
Lycanthropy.
Thank you so much. AKA cursing one to become a werewolf. There are many different tales about people being transformed into these beasts. One story tells of Saint Patrick who transformed the Welsh Queen Vertusur into a wolf. Another says how Natalis supposedly cursed an illusionary Irish family whose members were doomed to be a wolf for 7 years. So this led to the belief that men supposedly became werewolves when incurring the wrath of the devil. But on the flip side, there is a belief that werewolves were the hounds of God and would descend into hell to battle witches and demons. And
Oh,
then, when the wolf died, instead of staying in hell for all eternity, God would grant them forgiveness for their battles and let their soul into the gates of heaven. So this it's just been around so long. Werewolves have been around for centuries. They're such an old tale. But I thought it was cool because I feel like sometimes the church may say it's the devil, and I was like, well, we all know that, so I don't
yeah.
think it did. But this was way more like a punishment curse, and I thought that was absolutely
Interesting. Yeah.
fascinating. So you did it, Ryan. You have gotten one. I'll give that to you because that was a trick
I'll
question.
take it. I'll take it.
But I'm like the meme professor, where now you
Yeah.
have 3 choices. Whoa. All right. Your
Well,
turn, Chief.
well, we're coming up on our time, so I'm gonna make this relatively quick. So it's pretty obvious. I imagine everyone knows there's a lot of werewolf books, TV shows, movies, games. There's everything. They're probably one of the like most popular. I imagine one of the most popular like horror creatures of all time, especially in the 80s. The 80s birthed two of the greatest werewolf movies of all time, both drastically different. The first, Teen Wolf, which stars Michael J. Fox, which is what I was talking about earlier. and he's like this nerdy kid. Oh, I'm not gonna spoil anything, so don't worry if you haven't seen these movies. He's like a nerdy kid who's on a basketball team that is just absolutely terrible, and in 80s movie fashion, he's like in love with like the popular girl.
Right.
Turns out he's a werewolf. And in this movie, it's like passed down generations. So like his dad's a werewolf, he's a werewolf, his kid will be a werewolf, that kind of thing. Sometimes it skips a generation.
Is it a symbolism for puberty?
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, well, it's funny because like he goes in the bathroom and he's like transforming, and then his dad like opens the door and he's also a werewolf. And he's like, I guess we should talk about this. And it's one of the best scenes ever.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so turns out being a werewolf makes you much better at sports and much more charismatic. And a lot of things happen that I'm not going to spoil, but it's a good movie. Go check it out. A slightly more serious movie, American Werewolf in London, also from the 80s. I think this is kind of the one that kicked off the 80s. Like, you know how like every like few years there's like a movie that just sparks a million of the same movie?
Yes.
I think that was what this movie was.
Okay.
So it's two Americans go backpacking in Britain and get attacked by a wolf. One dies, one survives, and the one that survives, well, you can guess what happens next. And it's about him like kind of coming to terms with it. Yeah, go check them out. They're very good movies. There's so many werewolf movies out there. Like I was gonna make like a top 10 list, but I was like, I can't. Like there's so many. Yeah.
I know. Well, I looked at this picture you put up for the the modern takes, and I was very uncomfortable for a moment with this last one.
I think I skipped it on accident. I don't think I added it.
If I have time, I'll put it up. But I was like, what kind of movie is that, Ryan? Because it's like him mid-transforming.
Yeah. Why are my last two slides not in there? Here, one sec.
Yeah, we need the.
Yeah, I got it.
There we go. I was like, you got this. Yeah, I like saw that. I was like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I want to watch the Teen Wolf one for sure. I'm trying to think, I don't know. I'm so bad with film, everybody. I wish I watched more movies, but I just like reading little short stories or watching cartoons. I'm not that great with it.
For some reason, my photos don't want to upload, and I don't know why.
Ooh, it's okay. Oh,
that's very weird.
The alignment chart, though.
Yeah. One sec. I'm gonna make it work.
Okay, Chris, you can cut this out the moment we realize.
Yeah.
For all our YouTube listeners, how are you today? How is your evening, midday going? We normally record at night, so it's kind of strange for us to be in the daylight.
There we go. There's my... Yeah, so the top one here, that's Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
The bottom one there, that's American Werewolf in London.
It looks like a Sasquatch.
Yeah, oh, no, he's straight up. Like, all of these, like, 80s werewolf movies, they look like Sasquatch. And this is him, like, transforming. It is just a great still shot. There could be a lot going on there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Majestic. That's exactly how I imagine Sasquatch would look if he was a student at a school. Like, jock jacket, sunglasses, long Jesus hair. All right. This is the time when we do announcements before we do the Aloreing alignment chart. I think the only announcement I have is, everybody, we have our Patreon, and I'm loving the support we're getting on our Patreon. I do need to bring something up, though. There's a lot of people that are Team Cryptid on our Patreon.
Heck yeah.
And I'm not saying
no, you're on the right team. Now let's skip announcements. We don't need announcements. Everyone keep doing exactly what you're doing. Team Cryptid for life.
So listen, if you are Team Cryptid, I get it. They're cool, right? And you're on our Patreon, Team Cryptid. Every month, you get access to a digital download of the illustration I made, and which is really cool, right? And then you get a vote on stuff. You get to access our behind the scenes content not posted anywhere else about Ryan and I playing some spooky games, which is pretty fun. But if you're on Team Folklore, instead of a cryptid illustration, you get a folklore one. And I'm not being biased, but the folklore ones are so great and so beautiful. So if you're feeling generous, even if it's just for a month or two, you can go on, become a Patreon. You can download all the past digital downloads, which is pretty neat, in my opinion. And you get shop discounts, all this stuff. So like just go check it out. Patreon.com/Aloreing. Supporting the show. You get some cool stuff out of it. Just think about it.
Yeah.
I need more Team Folklore. And if you can't contribute that way, listen, go write a 5-star review about our podcast and put that you're Team Cryptid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let us know.
Cryptid. Team Folklore.
No. The first one. Everyone, yeah, leave a review with Team Cryptid or Team Folklore. I know it's only going to be Team Cryptids in there, so I ain't worried. But, yeah.
All my folklore lovers, you need to come out. You need to support me. Because, listen, I saw a comment, and it made me so happy. Thank you for the review. And you said, Team Cryptid all the way. And I just felt hurt. And Ryan was happy.
Remember when this was a folklore podcast?
I was like, where are my people? So if you love folklore, just go write us a review too. There's 2 great ways to support us. You can do both. You may get a sticker out of it if you message me, sending me a screenshot of your review. And if you're Team Folklore, I may give you a folklore sticker. Cryptid, I'll give you a cryptid sticker. We'll see. See how I'm feeling about it. Okay. Ryan will probably
I'll make sure you get it. Don't worry.
Oh, all right. Done with that. Let's go to our Aloreing alignment chart. Now listen.
We're close.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
After we've talked about, I have been drug out of the rabbit holes. I am wrong in this, and this is the only time I will admit it.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong, because okay. I'm sure there's a few dick werewolves out there. Right. I'm sure they exist, but for the most part, at least from my stories, they're just people trying to survive, you know?
Yeah, so they're definitely more in the good, neutral, chaotic end of life.
Yeah, the only reason I put chaotic, because again, chaotic does not mean bad. I feel like chaotic gets a bad rap. Chaotic just means they don't follow any innate laws or have their own laws. Right. So yeah, I think, stealing your neighbor's sheep, maybe not great, but if you're trying to feed your family, you gotta do what you gotta do. And that's what makes you chaotic. But it doesn't make you evil. Yeah, no, I feel like me and you have a good understanding of the difference between chaotic and evil. Yeah. Which is good. Or else this would be more of a hot mess than it is 80% of the time. But yeah, they're just dogs. That's what werewolves are. And for the audio listeners, Kimmy put it chaotic neutral, dead center. I put mine a little more to the good side, but about the same amount of chaoticness. And yeah, I think we're both right on this one. I'm not going to argue. No. And the thing with werewolves, because I am going to point this out, because I had a few listeners ask me, it depends their human form on how attractive they are. Because if you have Urkel turning into a werewolf, anyone can be a werewolf. Hot. That's the thing. Right. There's no set thing. So I do want to point that out. I'm team romance novel werewolf, 1000%. The novel I'm doing, 1000%. But I don't know, werewolves from What We Do in the Shadows. No, I'm gonna pass them. I will add Twilight werewolves, lawful evil, all the way top left. Really? Where would you put the vampire? Really? I don't know. They're just weird. They're kidnapping kids.
Listen, I don't feel that way. I get it for Jacob because the whole imprint thing is weird,
But
right?
none of the other werewolves thought it was weird.
Okay, that is a weird thing, but like the thing with the werewolves in Twilight, I get it because it's a lot of ties to like the struggles of like Native Americans having their land taken over. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
point. So like that, not bueno. But the imprint on the
Yeah,
baby
that's the part that
is
gets
not
me.
bueno.
Yeah.
So I feel if that wasn't part of it, it would be fine.
Yeah.
Like we would all be
Yeah,
like Team
then we'd
Werewolf.
be back down to chaotic good.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But they follow some weird rules that are like, oh, if I imprint on you, you're now mine. Like that's
Yeah.
weird. That's weird.
That's weird. Yeah, that's and I think the thing that's weird for me is the only stuff I know about imprinting before Twilight was how ducks will imprint on you, and I was like, that's adorable. And then
Yeah.
I read the story, I'm like, ah, that's
Oh,
so
that's
nice.
terrifying.
I was like, oh, like I first read it, I was like, maybe Jacob's just gonna be like an older protective brother.
No.
And then I kept reading it, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Oh.
oh, oh,
Yeah.
that's where we're going with
Yeah.
this. I if my ex came within 10 feet of my newborn, I would
Yeah.
lose it. I don't
Yeah.
know how Bella was so.
No.
She was
She should
crazy
have
but
taken him out
calm.
right there.
She just. We all support it.
Hmm.
Team Bella in that case.
Yeah.
'Cause we get it. Ooh, all right. Now let's get into our good old takeaways. What should we tell our campers?
I feel like I had a good one earlier. Oh yeah, if you see your neighbor howling and just barking at stuff, call the cops immediately.
Okay. Call the cops and howling neighbors.
Hmm.
Uh, ooh, there's so many good ones this time. I want to be something with one of the, what's it called? One of the cures. Call on howling neighbors and, what could we do?
Oh, but then the second part of that one, but make sure your hunter buddy is there for when she inevitably escapes.
Let's do that one. Let's do that because I love that so much. Call the cops on your howling neighbors, but have your hunter friend
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah, if she's stealing your livestock specifically.
Or your peaches. Whatever. Woo! All right, that was a good one. We are going to head out. How do I say goodbye? Thank you all so much for listening. This has been Aloreing.
Bark, 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 bark. Next episode.
Bark!